The Bucks dominate the Ducks. Ohio State scored on 6 of its first 7 possessions to take a 34-0 lead, including a pair of 40-yard touchdowns to number 4 freshman sensation Jeremiah Smith. Will Howard said the loss to Oregon in the regular season gave him nightmares. His day at the Rose Bowl was a dream come true. Finished 17-26, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Ohio State defense forced 5 punts and 1 turnover on downs in the first half before Oregon finally found the end zone. The Ducks scored on their first possession of the second half, but Buckeyes running back Travion Henderson later answered with his second touchdown of the game. It was complete domination as the Buckeyes D recorded 8 sacks. 8 sacks against Dylan Gabriel. The Buckeyes avenged their 1-point loss to Oregon and hand the Ducks their first loss of the season, knocking them out of the playoff 41-21. Welcome in former Louisiana running back Emory Hunt and former Ohio State running back Beanie Wells. Beanie, where was this Ohio State team against Michigan?
I mean, that's the question that we all had. You know, we all thought and anticipated this team being the most dominant team in college football to start the season. And obviously they had other plans. They had some growing pains. But now, right now, this Ohio State team is the best team in college football. I can't see anybody beating them the way that they're playing right now. And when you talk about Oregon, they've been great all season long. They've been the most dominant team in the country. And Ohio State just went out and made them look like an average team. And if anybody would have told me that, I would have said you were crazy. I just knew this game was going to be ultra competitive. But Ohio State, they are a completely different monster right now.
Emory, Chip Kelly was in his bag. The former Oregon coach, now the Ohio State OC. I mean, he was just putting on a clinic in the first half.
Talk about getting smacked around by Michigan and then responding how we saw last week against Tennessee.
Yep.
And then what we saw in the first half against Oregon. This is how you respond. And this is how Chip Kelly responded. This is how Ryan Day responded. This is how Ohio State's secondary and defense responded. We know the run game was going to always be there. I was impressed by everything Ohio State did. What impressed me the most in this ball game, you talked about those 8 sacks, Hakeem, 1 penalty. And that's the mark of a team that was disciplined. They came into this ball game with a game plan and they executed flawlessly. I felt like every play worked. You rarely see that happen on the football field where everything we call comes up money. And they got out of the gates, right out of the gate, what, a minute drive and touchdown. So this was a sorry Oregon, but this was unfortunately not your day. It didn't matter if it was Oregon, of any of their great teams, they would have got slaughtered today by Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State putting on an absolute clinic. And Beanie, I was shouting in the newsroom, throw the ball to number 4. Throw it to number 4. And Jeremiah Smith even warned the Ducks, saying, if you play man coverage, we are taking a shot down the field. Will Howard dropping dimes to his receivers. What did you see?
You know, I saw them at times go into that man coverage and then go into that cover 2 man. And Will Howard and Jeremiah Smith, they exposed it. And I don't know, sometimes coaches, you know, have this type of bravado, and when they hear a player talk and give them a little warning and take it as a shot. But that's one of those shots that you really should have taken heed to, because nobody in America knew that if you were going to one-on-one cover Jeremiah Smith, you were going to be in for it. Everybody knew that. And, you know, for whatever reason, Dan Lanning and that defensive staff had ultra confidence in their defenders going up against this young stud. But boy, I know they could if they could rewrite this game and change the game plan and format it a little bit differently, they most certainly would. But this was a masterful performance by Ohio State on both sides of the football. I love everything that Chip Kelly did from a play calling and a schematic standpoint.
Emory, did you learn anything, or did you change your narrative about Will Howard? He was pretty good against Tennessee, right? Great completion percentage, had an interception. But did you look at him in a different way after this game and go, wow, this kid's elite?
I wouldn't say elite, but I looked at him differently after the Tennessee game, because it was 2 situations, one against Tennessee and one in this ball game. You saw it for a touchdown. 2 of these throws were some of the best throws I've ever seen him make. They were placed perfectly as if he went out there and handed the football to the receiver. They was right on the money, tight window throws. Those are the type of things that we want to see Will Howard do consistently in the passing game that we hadn't really seen from him all season long. And now we're starting to see it in the most crucial part of the season, the postseason. And also, the thing that is getting left out about this whole Will Howard thing is that he is still a very good athlete. We hadn't really seen him use his running game with his own legs yet. So that may be something that's coming down the pike. But him throwing the football with great timing, great touch, great anticipation, the deep ball accuracy, man, he's playing lights out football right now.
Yeah, and the Ohio State defense, wow, incredible. Forced Oregon to punt 5 times, 1 turnover on downs before they finally found the end zone at the end of the first half. It was complete domination. The Buckeyes D recorded 8 sacks against Dylan Gabriel. Emory, Oregon played its first game in 25 days, so it's a pretty lengthy layoff. How much do you think that affected Dan Lanning and the Ducks?
I think it affected them. I'd say that's 50% of the problem. The other 50% is the fact that they faced an Ohio State team that was different than the team they faced in that first matchup. This was a team that played completely different, much better defense, much more consistent on offense, much more explosive on offense. So whether or not they had 25 days rest or a week's rest, I don't think the outcome would have been any differently, because this is a totally different Ohio State team. Everything that you thought about Ohio State in that first matchup, throw it out the window, because it didn't apply to this Ohio State team we've seen for the last 2 weeks.
And Beanie, it was tough for Oregon to really get going. Jordan James injured in this game, their top running back. Tez Johnson injured in this game, their top receiver. So taking 2 very, very good players away from Dylan Gabriel. And you look at the draw they got in their opener, and they've been sitting here for more than 3 weeks. Do you think because of this result, the format might change in the college football playoff?
I most certainly, I do believe that it should. Whether it does, I think that's up for the guys in the committee to discuss and figure out. But anytime you have, 3 weeks to a month off of football, I think it's entirely too much. I'm not even a huge proponent of having a bye week, but I understand it. And sometimes it makes sense from a standpoint of getting guys healthy and back ready to play. But when you talk about 3 weeks or longer for a young kid between the ages of 18 and 22 years old, to get them to mentally stay in it and to, keep their mind on the task at hand, it's tough. Right now, they got so many different distractions with social media, NIL contracts. And then when you're the top team like Oregon, everybody's been stroking your ego the entire year. And you're thinking, what's 3 weeks to us? It's nothing. We're going to go out and play like we've been playing before. Well, it just doesn't work like that. You have to go against somebody. You have to stay in it mentally and physically, for that matter. And right now, obviously, I think it certainly hurt Oregon, and it did not help them, being off as long as they would. So I hope the committee does come to some type of arrangement to where they get, the long extended days, eradicated.
Ohio State is the favorite to win the national championship after what we just saw. Do they win the national championship?
Depends on who they play.
It depends on who they play. So it's not just, hey, we're going to the Natty and we're winning this thing.
And now,
come on, Amber, I know you want to say it. They're going to win it.
There we go. See?
My thing is this, because Beanie knows this, because we did a show in August, right?
Yep.
And my national champion was Texas. Well, now you look at Oregon was one of my national champion participants.
Yep.
And now they're out. So Ohio State now is kind of, taking it, but they still got to see who I feel like Notre Dame is on the other side of it. But Ohio State is making a significantly strong case. It's making it hard for me to not say Ohio State is going to win it, because this is the reason why everybody was picking Ohio State in the preseason, because of what we're seeing the last 2 games that they've played. This is an explosive team. This is a dominant team. The secondary looks like how the secondary looked on paper. Now they're playing up to that caliber. So this team is going to be a problem for any other team that they face.
All right, I'm going to take away my scarlet and gray fandom here. Me and Beanie are both from Northeast Ohio. Of course, he played for Ohio State. He was a star there and then went on to the NFL. But I don't know who's going to beat Ohio State the way they just played. I don't think there's any team that's going to beat them. If they can play that way, and people go, well, they can't replicate that 2 more times. Why not, Beanie? Why not?
Ohio State is a motivated bunch. They had their back against the wall. For so many weeks, people were talking about, the Michigan loss and, the woes with the play calling and, if Ryan Day is going to be the guy. Right now, they're answering all of those questions, how to prove everybody wrong. So I most certainly think that they can and will continue this style of play, because when your back is against the wall and you're tired of hearing people chirp and, question, your manhood and if you're good enough and if you should be here, you want to answer that. And you want to answer that every opportunity that you get. And knowing what's at stake right now, I think the Buckeyes most certainly will. And let's not forget about the fact that Ohio State had an offensive line carousel for the last few weeks of the season. Yeah. And they've gotten that thing figured out. And when you're talking about playing Birch and, Mateo Yu and those guys not being able to rush the passer consistently, those are some of the best in the country. I can't see anybody else, slowing Ohio State down from an offensive standpoint. The way that this offensive line is playing right now, is masterful.
Yeah, Cody Simon had 2 sacks. JT Tuimoloau had 2 sacks, and Jack Sawyer had 2 sacks. I mean, this defense, if the age-old saying of defense wins championships, that's true. The defense wins championships, offense sells tickets. This is the perfect recipe for Ohio State to win a national championship. And I know they have a $20 million roster, but you got to get guys to play to their elite level, their top-end level to win a national championship. This is what this looks like.
Well, I was getting ready to say this quickly, where you look at the rest of the playoff bracket, right? Defense reigns supreme. But when you look at the same teams that are left, who has the best offense? That's Ohio State. So even if all things are equal defensively, can you score points? I think you can safely say Ohio State can score points. So that gives them probably the favorite, a great chance of being a national champion because of that one reason.
Yeah. After their stinker against Michigan when they only scored 10 points, that's back-to-back 40-point games for the Buckeyes. Beanie Wells, the Ohio State alum, he's happy. I'm happy. Emory Hunt also happy, even though he's not rooting for Ohio State. But he can get on the bandwagon. You can jump on, all right? Appreciate you, men. Ohio State winning big, and Ohio State, of course. Wow, look how short those odds are. Plus 125, Emory, the favorite to win the Natty. 8 titles in school history. Their last was in 2014, first year of the college football playoff, when they beat Oregon.